A man walks into a restaurant. Nothing unusual about that. But what he sees through a kitchen window will expose a truth so uncomfortable about our society that by the end of this story, you'll question everything you think you know about talent, opportunity, and who really deserves success. This is a true story, and it begins with a woman the world had already decided to ignore. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Hunter Patterson had built his empire from nothing. At 42, he ran one of the fastest growing logistics companies in North America, employing over 3,000 people across 15 states. His company, Streamline Solutions, had revolutionized how goods moved from manufacturers to retailers, cutting delivery times and costs in ways that seemed almost magical to his competitors. But for the past 8 months, Streamline had been hemorrhaging money. Their predictive algorithm, the very heart of their operation, had started failing. Shipments were arriving late. Warehouses were overstocked in some regions and empty in others. Client complaints had tripled. Hunter had hired the best minds he could find. Data scientists from Google, engineers from Amazon, consultants who charged $15,000 a day. They'd spent over $2 million trying to fix the problem, and they were nowhere close to a solution. The pressure was mounting. Investors were asking difficult questions. Competitors were circling. Hunter's entire reputation was on the line because of one algorithm that refused to work. On a cold Thursday evening in November, Hunter found himself at Riverside Bistro, a mid-tier restaurant in downtown Seattle. He was there to meet a potential partner, but the man was running 20 minutes late. Hunter sat alone in a corner booth, scrolling through another batch of disappointing reports from his team. The numbers were getting worse. Every week brought new evidence that their system was failing in ways they couldn't predict or control. That's when he noticed her. Through the small window that separated the dining area from the kitchen, he could see a young black woman sitting on a metal stool during what appeared to be her break. She was maybe 26 or 27, wearing the restaurant's standard black uniform and a slightly worn apron. She looked exhausted in that particular way that comes from standing on your feet for too many hours. But she wasn't resting. She was hunched over a laptop, old and scratched, the kind you'd find at a pawn shop for maybe $200. And she was coding. Hunter recognized it instantly because he'd spent months staring at similar screens in his own office. But this wasn't casual coding. This wasn't someone taking an online tutorial. The structure on her screen looked sophisticated. Complex. He could see data visualizations, predictive models, and mathematical functions cascading down the screen as her fingers moved with confident speed. Hunter stood up and moved closer to the kitchen window. From this angle, he could see more clearly. The model on her screen was analyzing supply chain patterns, transportation routes, warehouse capacity, delivery time predictions based on weather, traffic, and seasonal demand fluctuations. It was exactly what his team had been working on. But her approach was different. Where his engineers had built rigid, linear models that tried to control every variable, her system seemed fluid, adaptive, almost organic. It was treating the supply chain not as a machine to be optimized, but as a living system to be understood. Hunter watched as she ran a simulation, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The visualization showed supply chains adapting in real time to changing conditions, flowing around obstacles like water finding its path. It was elegant, and it looked like it actually worked. Hunter walked back to his booth, canceled his meeting, and sat there for another 10 minutes watching her work. His heart was pounding. Part of him felt ridiculous. Here he was, a billionaire CEO, about to approach a waitress and ask her about code he'd glimpsed through a kitchen window. But his instincts told him he had to take the chance. When she finally closed her laptop and stood up, he flagged her down as she passed his table. "Excuse me. I'm sorry to bother you. But I need to ask you something. And I promise this isn't a line or anything weird. Were you just working on supply chain modeling back there?" The woman froze. Her expression shifted through surprise, confusion, defensiveness, and finally a kind of resigned caution that suggested she'd learned not to trust unexpected attention from strangers. "I'm sorry, was I being too loud? I can stop if it's a problem. My manager said it was okay as long as I'm on break, but if customers are complaining, I understand." Hunter shook his head quickly. "No, not at all. I was fascinated. My name is Hunter Patterson. I run a logistics company. And what I saw on your screen looked incredibly sophisticated. I'm not trying to steal your work. I'm just genuinely curious. Did you build that yourself?" The woman studied him for a long moment, clearly trying to decide if this was some kind of trap. Finally, she seemed to conclude that the truth couldn't hurt. "Yes. I've been working on it for about 2 years. It's called Adapt Flow. Most supply chain algorithms treat logistics like a math problem with a single correct answer. But real-world supply chains are more like ecosystems affected by hundreds of variables that interact in unpredictable ways. So instead of trying to control everything, Adapt Flow learns to read patterns and adapt in real time. Kind of like how a restaurant kitchen adjusts during a dinner rush. You know how sometimes everything flows perfectly? And other times it's chaos? I started thinking about what makes the difference. Hunter felt his pulse quicken. This woman had just articulated, in seconds, an insight his team had failed to grasp in 8 months. That's brilliant. Can I ask where you studied? MIT? Carnegie Mellon? The woman's expression darkened. Community college. Seattle Central. 2-year degree in computer science. I couldn't afford university, so I taught myself the rest through online courses and library books. Her name was Samantha Kirk, and over the next hour, as she squeezed in conversation between serving other tables, Hunter learned her story. She'd grown up in the Central District of Seattle. Back when it was still predominantly black, her mother had worked as a nurse's aide at Harborview Medical Center for 23 years, taking double shifts to keep them afloat. Her father had left when Samantha was 4. Money was always tight, but her mother made sure Samantha had what she needed. A used computer when she was 12, internet access that sometimes got shut off when bills piled up, forcing Samantha to do homework at the public library. Samantha had been good at math from an early age. The kind of kid who finished tests in half the time and found patterns in everything. But good grades in an underfunded school district didn't translate into opportunities. No coding camps. No robotics teams. No family connections to tech. She'd worked through community college, waitressing at night and studying during every spare moment, believing that if she just worked hard enough, the doors would open. They hadn't. After graduating, Samantha had applied to 62 tech companies over 2 years, entry-level positions, internships, junior developer roles. She'd customized every application, built a portfolio website showcasing her projects. She'd received 9 responses. All rejections. Most companies never replied at all. The problem was multifaceted. No 4-year degree. No internships at recognizable companies because you couldn't get internships without already having internships. No network of professors or classmates. And there was something else the recruiters didn't say directly but Samantha understood perfectly. She didn't fit the image of what tech talent was supposed to look like. When hiring managers pictured a brilliant young engineer, they weren't picturing a black woman from Seattle's Central District with a community college degree. So Samantha had kept waitressing. And she'd kept coding. Not because she believed it would lead anywhere, but because she couldn't stop. While she served overpriced pasta to tech workers who talked loudly about their projects, never noticing the woman serving their food, she built systems that could transform industries. Adapt Flow had started 3 years ago when she noticed something about the restaurant kitchen. During slow periods, it ran smoothly but inefficiently. During rush periods, everyone moved frantically, but mistakes increased. But occasionally, everything clicked. The kitchen would hit a flow state where everyone moved in synchronized harmony, handling twice the normal volume while maintaining perfect quality. Samantha started wondering, what if you could build an algorithm that learned to recognize those flow states and help systems achieve them consistently? That question consumed her for 2 years. She studied chaos theory, network science, behavioral psychology, and systems biology. She taught herself advanced programming and mathematical modeling. She built and rebuilt Adapt Flow 17 times, each iteration learning from the previous failures. She did all of it alone. In stolen moments between shifts, running code on a $240 laptop. No research budget. No team. No mentor. Just Samantha, her laptop, and an idea that wouldn't let her go. Hunter listened to all of this, his dinner forgotten. When Samantha finished, she seemed embarrassed. I'm sorry, I know it sounds ridiculous. A waitress thinks she can solve problems that actual engineers can't. I don't even know why I'm telling you all this. Hunter leaned forward. Samantha, I need to tell you something clearly. My company has been working on exactly this problem for 8 months. We've spent over $2 million. We've hired some of the smartest people in the industry, people with PhDs from top universities, and we're failing. The approach you just described, the system you've built, it's more sophisticated than anything my team has produced. I'm not exaggerating, I'm telling you a fact. Samantha stared at him, caught between hope and disbelief. You're serious? Hunter nodded. I want to see your code. I want to understand how Adapt Flow works. And if it does what I think it does, I want to offer you a job, not as a junior developer. As a senior systems architect. Full benefits. Salary starting at $160,000 a year. And equity in the company. The number physically staggered Samantha. She gripped the table. Her mother made $38,000 after 23 years. Samantha made $22,000 plus tips. That's not possible. I don't have the credentials. Your HR would never approve that. Hunter shook his head. You have something better than credentials. You have an original idea and the skill to execute it. Credentials are just signals that predict ability. But you've already demonstrated the ability itself. Why would I care about the signal when I can see the real thing? Samantha's eyes filled with tears. I've been applying and failing for so long. 62 applications. 9 rejections. 53 companies that never responded. I stopped believing this could happen. Hunter waited until she looked back at him. I understand why you stopped believing. The system is designed to make people like you invisible, but I'm looking at you now. And I see you clearly. The only question is whether you're willing to show me what you've built. If this part is making sense. Drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's really watching to this point. 3 days later, Samantha sat in a glass conference room on the 42nd floor of Streamline Solutions, surrounded by Hunter's senior engineering team, 8 of them, all with prestigious degrees, all are formerly at major tech companies, and all skeptical as hell. The head engineer, David Thornton from Microsoft, didn't hide his doubt. So, Hunter tells us you've developed an adaptive supply chain model. Can you explain the architecture? Samantha opened her laptop, hands shaking slightly but voice steady. AdaptFlow uses a multi-layered neural network, but instead of training it on historical data to predict specific outcomes, I trained it to recognize system states. It learns to identify when a supply chain is operating in high efficiency versus low efficiency states, then learns which interventions shift the system. It's less about prediction and more about navigation. David frowned. Supply chains are too complex for simple state-based models. You'd need to account for thousands of variables. Samantha nodded. That's why AdaptFlow doesn't try to account for every variable. It identifies what I call leverage points. The specific factors that have disproportionate influence on system state. In most supply chains, there are only about 15 to 20 true leverage points at any given time. The model focuses on those and lets the rest self-organize. Another engineer, Sarah Chen, leaned forward. How do you identify the leverage points? Samantha pulled up a visualization. The model runs continuous micro-simulations, tiny hypothetical changes to different variables, and measures how those changes ripple through the system. Variables that create large ripples are flagged as leverage points. The model updates this every 6 hours, so it shifts focus to whatever matters most in the current context. The room went quiet. Hunter smiled slightly. Show them the comparison. Samantha pulled up 2 screens. Left was Streamline's current model, right was AdaptFlow. This is last month's data. Your model predicted delivery times with an 18% error rate. AdaptFlow has a 4% error rate. David walked closer. That can't be right. Show me the methodology. For the next 2 hours, Samantha walked them through every aspect of AdaptFlow. She showed her code, explained her training process, and answered every technical question. Gradually, skepticism transformed into excitement. And for some, the uncomfortable realization that this woman had outperformed them. By the end, David looked shaken. This is extraordinary work. Where did you study? Samantha met his eyes calmly. I didn't study anywhere you'd recognize. But I learned how to solve problems and build systems. That's what matters. Right? Hunter hired Samantha that day. Within a week, she'd moved to a nicer apartment. Within 2 weeks, AdaptFlow was running on a test subset of operations. Within a month, the results were undeniable. Delivery accuracy improved by 22%. Warehouse efficiency increased by 18%. Client complaints dropped by 40%. But success brought challenges. Some of Hunter's team embraced Samantha enthusiastically, others resented her, viewing her rise as a threat. There were whispered conversations about affirmative action, about publicity stunt hiring. The comments were never direct. But Samantha heard them through overheard conversations. Through colleagues who questioned her decisions while accepting similar ones from others without comment. The real validation came 6 months later when Streamline won a major contract with one of the country's largest retailers, beating 3 competitors. The client chose Streamline specifically because of AdaptFlow. The contract was worth $42 million over 3 years. At the celebration dinner, Hunter pulled Samantha aside. When I first saw you in that restaurant, I almost didn't approach you. Part of me thought I was imagining things. And honestly, part of me worried about what people might think. I'm ashamed of that hesitation. I'm glad I pushed past it. Samantha smiled, but there was sadness too. I think about how many people like me are still out there. People who are brilliant and hardworking, but invisible because they don't have the right credentials or connections or skin color. How many problems could we solve if we actually looked for talent instead of assuming it looks a certain way? Hunter nodded. You're right. I've been thinking about starting a fellowship program that actively recruits people from non-traditional backgrounds. Would you help me design it? Samantha's smile widened. I'd love that. Today, Samantha still keeps that old $240 laptop on a shelf in her office, a reminder of where she came from and how close she came to never getting this chance. When young people from non-traditional backgrounds come to her for advice, she tells them the truth. You'll have to work harder than people with advantages. You'll have to be better and still get less recognition. You'll face rejection that has nothing to do with your abilities. People will question your qualifications in ways they never question others. And all of that is deeply unfair. The system is broken, not you, but build things anyway. Learn anyway, create anyway. Because the work itself matters. Because you deserve to develop your talents regardless of whether anyone notices. And because occasionally, opportunities do appear. When they do, you need to be ready. The story of the waitress who solved a billion-dollar problem isn't about genius or innovation, it's about visibility. It's about who we see and who we overlook. Samantha Kirk didn't stop being brilliant when she was rejected 62 times. She was brilliant the entire time, serving tables and smiling at tech workers who never realized the woman serving their food was smarter than they were. The brilliance was always there. The only thing that changed was that, finally, someone saw it. How many people are we not seeing right now? And what is that blindness costing all of us? Before you go, we want to hear from you. If you were in Samantha's position, facing constant rejection despite your abilities, would you have kept going? And how many talented people have you overlooked because they didn't fit your expectations? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss stories that challenge how we think about success, talent, and who really deserves opportunity. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.